Okay, the records are now open. All right. Well, I'm kind of getting some interesting stuff coming in. I think I don't see like initial Lyra Vega beginning with you. Okay. A lot of times I try to trace back to that. So what I'm picking up, okay, and this is kind of interesting, and I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but I do see that your first physical incarnation was you were the progeny of this intermixing of reptilian and Earth, or not Earth. It was reptilian and Syrian genetics. Okay, so you actually originated from Sirius C.
Okay. Oh, wow. So I do know that I shapeshift a lot of times. My eyes are like the Royal Draco. And I've had just a feeling that is, but also my physical genetics through my dad and my mom were related through all the presidential lines and the Illuminati. We have a lot of bloodlines through the big ones that are scary ones.
Yeah, so I see Annunaki genetics. Okay, right.
We're really connected to Annunaki. We've got Scottish lines too.
Yep, Annunaki genetics. Yep, and actually, my husband has some of those genetics too. Interestingly enough, so.
That's really cool.
But it's but he's a cool dude though. He's very awakened. But yeah, I do see. So I think what happened in Sirius C. Okay, so Sirius was kind of like a deposit of a lot of refugees from a lot of different groups. Okay, not as expansive as Orion, because Orion was a much bigger star system. But initially there was 3 stars. So there was a triad. It was Sirius A, B, and C. Most of the humanoid and cat people ended up in A. Then most of your amphibians and your aquatic beings was in B. And I think most of the reptilians ended up in C. Okay, so they're all yeah. So reptilians also were refugees from the wars because they got beat up pretty much too. Okay, and they were looking for a new home because they didn't want to be in Draco anymore. Okay, because it was hard on them as well. And I think what happened on Sirius C was I think there was some royal Syrian humanoids that wanted to create a treaty or this bond between the reptilians. So they decided that they were going to intermarry with these reptilians. Okay, so they would have like a prince from the royal human group marry a princess from the royal reptilian group. And so what I'm seeing is that you were the progeny of one of these pairings. Okay, so you come from royal genetics. Okay, and so you were like the predecessor of the Anunnaki that ended up on Earth. Okay,
it felt like that, like the ancient builder race.
Exactly.
Kind of like that.
Yeah. So
that's crazy amazing.
Yeah, no, the records showed me that right away, Anunnaki. So your reading's really super interesting already, because I don't get oftentimes people with this. I get maybe 1 or 2 every occasionally, but usually they started off on Earth. You started off in Sirius, okay? So that's pretty Anunnaki, okay? So do you have Rh negative blood, or
my mom does. I've got both, just because knowing how to do genetics. I studied in college a little. My dad's A positive, but he also has to have the O negative marker, because I've got 2 sisters that are O negative, and the rest of us are A positive.
Mm-hmm.
And so it does come from both lines. They actually, with the Mormon Church, did really extensive genealogy, which is understandable, where the base of their religion comes from the Illuminati. So.
Okay. And so what I'm seeing is that so you grew up in Sirius C, okay, and you had, I think, otherwise a pretty ordinary existence. Okay, it was and I think most of these pairings, these reptilian hybrid groups, they looked for the most part pretty human. Okay. I think the reptilian genetics was more recessive than it was, more of a recessive gene rather than a more aggressive one. But I think this particular line of people were extremely psychic. So you would probably have more psychic abilities than the average starseed. Okay, I mean it's like most starseeds are like at this level. You're like at way up here level. Okay,
I've been like that since I was little. I do remember being abducted by Zetas and just being in weird underground tunnel type things. There's torture I remember that I had to deal with last year.
Oh wow!
So a lot of really crazy things I remember. So it's just weird. I feel really connected to that, and also my Native American ancestry, almost like to the Mayan type. Like I don't know if those tie in. I feel really connected
a little bit.
To that.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, because there was a Syrian.
With
there was a Syrian influence on those cultures too, as well as Pleiadian.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so. And there was the feather serpent, Quetzalcoatl came from someplace. Okay, yeah, it came from some.
Right.
Yeah, so I think.
I'm wondering if that's like the type of dragon, because when I've seen myself shapeshift, I have black eagle wings, not like the traditional dragon wings.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, it's. I kind of get that Quetzalcoatl, I think, was an extraterrestrial that was visiting planet Earth, okay, and teaching the Mayan people, but he was a shapeshifter. So sometimes he would look like this, beautiful, white-skinned, human, okay, and then other times he would look like a feathered dragon, so I think he must have been maybe part of this Syrian Sea group, okay, yeah, so.
Cool.
Yeah, so I need to look into that more because that's kind of interesting. Now that I'm seeing that in the records, but yeah, I think
I feel really connected to Felspar, like your Moonstone, your Labradorite.
Yeah,
there's been like some sort of a Tibetan connection that I felt with a master that's reached through me, just because. Being a master meditator, I can go really deep to that gamma level, and I actually do the astral projecting and stuff. So
yeah, so you would have psychic abilities, I think, beyond the average person. Okay, and I see that a lot with people that have Rh negative blood or have, and it's like they're super intuitive. So they pick up on information and things that are going on. Even beyond the average starseed, the average one from Sirius or Pleiades or,
That's really humbling.
Yeah. So what I'm seeing is, I think there was either some conflicts or maybe it was I think it might have even been a natural disaster that happened with Sirius C where the star blew up, okay, and the planet you were on, which was Nibiru. Okay, so a lot of people wonder where did Nibiru come from. Nibiru was actually a planet that revolved around Sirius C. Okay, and so Nibiru was kind of shot off its orbit. Okay, because it from the impact of the star blowing up, it got shot off its orbit and headed towards Earth. Okay, so Sirius C must have been fairly close to Earth, and I know Sirius A is like 8 light years away, and yeah, so it's pretty close. I mean, it's not. I mean, maybe not as close as Alpha Centauri, but it's pretty freaking close to Earth. That's why you see so much Sirian influence on Earth. Okay, and I think you were on board this planet, okay, and you were like, you know what, I'm not sure what we're supposed to be doing, so I think there was this big consensus that, that Nibiru was going to be destroyed, okay, and the people on board Nibiru didn't want to get destroyed with it, so they had to make a very rash decision, and they decided, well, we're passing through this solar system, let's start off with making, let's start off by, maybe inhabiting this nice planet Earth, and kind of seeing what's happening, or kind of see what we can do. Okay. So they settled on Earth, and I think there was a lot of indigenous Earth people that were of lower genetics. Okay, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, but my understanding was that, you know, the Anunnaki was trying to colonize Earth. Okay, and there was one group that thought, you know what, we need to take these Earth people and make them our slaves. Okay, and then there was another group that was totally against that. Okay, they felt like, you know, that's a violation of, you know, universal law. We're not going to do that. Okay, and so I call it Team Enki and Team Enlil. Team Enlil was the bad, you know, the negative ones, and Team Enki was the positive ones. I think you were more on Team Enki. Okay, and so I think the Team Enlil group was taking these you know Neanderthal man, and I think Neanderthal man and Cro-Magnon man actually had 12-strand DNA. And they were super intuitive people. Okay, so maybe they were primitive, but they were able to ascend. Okay, what the negative Anunnaki did was they took the components of the genetics, and they downgraded them from 12-strand to 2-strand. So that's why Earth humans today only have 2 strands of DNA. Okay, so and so they were
but
down.
I always felt like I had the 12, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think, you know, most of us remember, you know, in past lives that we've had in other star systems, we always had 12-strand. So a lot of us, when we incarnate on Earth as an Earth human, we get really frustrated because it's like, you know, I don't have all my abilities. I remember being able to fly in the Merkaba. I remember, you know, astral traveling. I remember having telepathic communication. You know, what happened to that? Okay. So basically, these negative Anunnaki people were taking human genetics and they were downgrading them to the point where these people were just smart enough to take orders, and they wouldn't last a long time. So it was like they work in the gold mines for a few years and then they would die off. The women were, I think the reason why they decided to reverse this was because the women were dying in childbirth. You know, they couldn't even carry the babies all the way to term. Okay, and I mean, this is how downgraded they down. And so the positive, Anunnaki group reached out to the other Syrians from Sirius A and Sirius B and said, "Can you help us fix this mistake that our other brothers and sisters did?" Okay, I mean, it was just. And kind of what I'm seeing with you during this time is, I think you were a Anunnaki princess, and this was around, and I think you incarnated, so when you came to Earth, you settled in what was the Middle East, okay, so what we know as kind of the cradle of civilization, okay, and so you reached out to the Syrians. I think you have always had kind of some sort of a relationship with the other Syrian groups, okay? And so I think you reached out to the Syrian High Council and you said, you know what, we kind of made a mess of things here on Earth. Can you help us? Okay? And there was this like sense of responsibility, okay? And I think you've had this sense of responsibility ever since. Where you felt like
feeling like I'm a warrior and having to fix something.
Yeah, and so kind of what I'm seeing is, I mean, you know, this is kind of like it sounds crazy, but it really isn't. Okay, so I think there was the Syrian High Council from Sirius sent a team of scientists to try to fix Earth human genetics. Okay, and so there was some Earth humans, they couldn't turn on all 12 strands, so there were some Earth humans they were inserting with the Anunnaki genetics and some that they were inserting with the Syrian genetics. So the majority of us all here on Earth, we all have Syrian genetics, okay? I mean, I would say the vast majority of us. But there's some that have the additional Anunnaki genetics. So you had to incarnate here on Earth into families that had that additional Anunnaki genetic. Okay, and kind of what I'm seeing is there was constant conflicts between the two Anunnaki groups. And so there was one group of Anunnaki that felt like they had to go underground for a while. Because the other Anunnaki group wanted to take over. Okay, and so I think Yahweh, was a Yahweh, who we all understand from the Old Testament as being God, was not really God at all. Was not the higher intelligence God. Okay, Yahweh was a Anunnaki being that was pretending to be God in order to control, the humans that were the descendants of Noah. Okay, so I think there was initially, there was a lot of intermixing between extraterrestrial and humans. That's why we had these giants. The Bible talks about the giants, and the Anunnaki didn't want that. They wanted things to be pretty controlled, and so there was this big flood that kind of wiped out everything except for a very a human group of people, that was Noah, Noah and his family. Okay, and that was the genetics they wanted to propagate on Earth. Okay, and I do think that was around the time that your group, your family group, decided to go underground. Okay.
Right. That'd be all the Native Americans in America, the Americas, and all the stories that they have. Mm-hmm. The Hopi tribes, the ones that are around in those areas, like the Grand Canyon, they talk about that a lot, going with the ant people underground during the Great Floods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was, I think, what you and your family group did. Okay.
Makes sense why I feel very connected out west. I've always felt called to watch the ley lines out here, mm-hmm. from Alaska all the way to Mexico. I feel very responsible for making sure that the energy stays level, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think this is why I think you, and I think you wanted to get far away from, the original Anunnaki group. It was just, the negative ones anyway. So kind of what I'm seeing is, I think for a while you were underground, and then I think you got called to do, I don't know, this is kind of weird, because and I'm not sure the reason behind it, but you got called to, I think, try to create peace and unity in Maldek, which is a planet that used to be between Jupiter and Mars. Okay, so I think it was you and a small group of people were trying to find. I think we're trying to, because the Maldekians were all outcast people from Orion. Okay, so these were. So if Orion is sending people to Maldek, they must have been some bad people. Okay, I mean they're like the criminals of Orion, and Orion was pretty bad. So it was like, if they were considered to be so bad that Orion was rejecting them, they were pretty bad. Okay, and so these people were constantly in civil war with each other. Okay, and so what I'm seeing is that you and I think this positive Anunnaki soul group, okay, was trying to create unity consciousness in Maldek, but it was a big disaster. Okay, they weren't interested in achieving any kind of peace treaties, and I think that was when you first encountered a young man, and I don't think he's a twin flame, but I think he is from Orion. Okay, and that's Ian. Okay, so Ian wasn't one of these outcasts. Okay, I think he came from Orion to assist this kind of peacekeeping operation. Okay, and so what I see with Ian and you is that there was kind of a soulmate or a soul contract connection, because you two had worked some missions together before, okay? So I kind of see that you were coming from Earth, he was coming from Orion. You know, they were trying to figure out what to do with Maldek. And I think initially it seemed like, okay, you know, the peace treaties are working. You know, I think we'll leave the Maldekians to, you know, govern their own system. And then they fell into a huge civil war, and they blew up the planet. Okay, so what's left of Maldek is now the asteroid belt. Okay. So during, I think this, so this was during the time when Orion was still. So I kind of see you bouncing between Earth and Orion. Okay. Yeah, it was just kind of interesting. And I think it was because you really connected with this person from Orion who was Ian. You know. And I think there was some sort of love relationship there. You know, I'm not sure, but I think there was. I think there was negative factions that were leaving Orion and coming to Earth. Okay, and they were starting to influence some of the newer civilizations on Earth at the time, which was, you know, Atlantis and, you know, some of the other civilizations. Okay, and some of them were starting to.
Still really connected to Mu.
Yeah, yeah, and I do think you had some incarnations there too, but I think this was even before Lemuria. It was before Atlantis, but I think you developed this relationship with this Orion person, you know, that was kind of this spiritual warrior, you know, peacekeeping kind of dude, and he asked for your assistance in Orion because Orion was struggling, you know, the Orion belt stars were struggling against the rest of the reptilian empire. And he figured, well, you know, you have reptilian genetics, maybe you understand these reptilians more than I would. Okay. So I think Ian is from a different genetic line than you are, but you two just kind of formed this relationship with each other. Okay. So it kind of was like a soulmate connection. Okay. Because I see more Lyra genetics with him, but when he escaped Lyra, he ended up in Orion, and he spent lifetimes in Orion. Okay. Yeah, where you were kind of new to Orion. You know, you had Sirian genetics, so you came from Sirius. And it's more than likely you also have a Lyra genetic in there somewhere because you came from part human genetics. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So.
We definitely have some interesting serendipities. I mean, just astrally, and even down to my youngest child and his child have almost identical first names and identical middle names, which is
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we've discussed that I'm like, well, holy cow, how in the heck? So it's very interesting that it's almost like we left breadcrumbs to continue.
Yeah, it's almost like this and I think it's kind of like a soul contract, like, you know, and it's like you two came from the original soul group from Lyra, but he incarnated in Lyra, okay, and you didn't incarnate until Sirius, okay, and you chose to incarnate as this hybrid being, okay. And so you have some of the genetics of both the reptilian and the Lyran, okay? And I think in Sirius they were thinking that was a means for them to create peace in Sirius, okay? That was like, yeah, you know, they thought, well, you know, we can combine, you know, these reptilian. And it's interesting because Jesus, I think, came from Syrian genetics, okay, Syrian Pleiadian. And
my QHHT actually came that I was one of his daughters with Mary Magdalene.
Well, that would make a lot of sense because Mary Magdalene has Annunaki genetics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it came out that I was I was basically raised in the Egyptian temple as a priestess to protect me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had other sisters, but I was by myself. I was raised by myself by a priest, and so.
Gotcha. Okay. Now another thing I noticed with people with Anunnaki, they have really good past life recall. Okay, so people with, I mean, it's like, most of my other starseeds is kind of like they don't really remember their past lives really well, and I think it's because Anunnaki have had a long connection with Earth. Okay. Where they kind of remember more of their Earth lives really, really well. Okay. And a lot of that too is because of the psychic abilities, so there was, yeah. But yeah, you spent some time, I think, on Orion, trying to, so you were working for the light, not for the dark, okay? So you were on the side of the black resistance fighters, trying to assist, and it was almost like it was part of this whole contract that you had with Ian, okay? And I think you two were on a lot of missions together. It was, sometimes it was more of a friendship, other times it was a romantic relationship, but it was always, I think, mostly a friendship before anything else.
Right.
And he almost felt like a brother to you sometimes, where he was, you were so close to him that you kind of felt like, well, he's not maybe my real brother, but I kind of feel this very deep.
I feel really protective of him and his child.
Yeah.
Just because, there's just always this mega protective feeling. But I sense that from him too. There's times when we've talked and I've been kind of down and he's really protective.
Yeah, and I think he's, it was interesting. I saw a picture of Ian even long before I joined MECN, and this person was asking me about him. Ian attracts a lot of ladies. Okay, I think and I think it was somebody he used to talk to or date. Sent me a picture of him, and I said, "Oh yeah, he's got a lot of Orion energy." I was like, wow, this. And I didn't get that deep into it, but I just told her, I just really picking up a lot of Orion energy with this person, but mainly humanoid genetics, okay? So I think the difference between you and Ian is that he has predominantly humanoid genetics. You have kind of a mix, okay? So you have this.
That's probably why I shapeshift when I'm singing and the camera picks it up.
Yeah, no, I've been noticing a little bit of shape shifting there. So.
Cool. And I haven't been paying attention, but a lot of times when I watch a video back, I usually see my eyes look like a snake or a cat.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
So I think so I'm seeing Earth, I'm seeing Maldek, Orion, and then back to Earth. Okay, so you kind of bounced around a little bit, okay, and
I like to travel.
yeah, you do. Yeah, no, I mean, but I think you felt this great responsibility about the mistakes that the Anunnaki made towards the human race, and so your mission, and I think it's been Orion, Ian's mission too, was to try to really help. Be a champion for humanity, okay? To bring humanity back to the original template that they were supposed to be with, not the downgraded template that we're dealing with right now, okay? So
it
probably
makes sense of the type of energy work that I do, and actually his higher self works with me a lot on the astral. When I work with people, I notice he shows up and helps, which is interesting.
Yeah, no, that's and so I think there's this relationship between you and him, and I think you're more aligned with Lemurian energies than you are Atlantean, okay, and I think initially I think you. And there may seem like there's a lot of bouncing back and forth even with Earth lives, because I think there was some lives you were having simultaneous to others, and there was, and when we're coming from the higher dimensional realms, sometimes we're popping into the past, sometimes we're popping into the future, so it may not seem like there's a real linear progression with some of these lives, but I think you've had actually a lot of lifetimes on Earth, Okay.
I feel really ancient.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing like a lot of lifetimes on Earth.
Well, even the connection with plant medicine, when I did an ayahuasca journey, I was only slightly nauseated, and everyone else was throwing up and diarrhea and.
But yeah, I do see a lot of lifetimes on Earth. Yeah, I do think. I think you loved Lemuria because it was the only fifth dimensional civilization we ever had on Earth, and I think originally that's what we wanted Earth to be like, was this, paradise, and working, mostly with, spirituality, and really connecting with the planet. And then when the Atlanteans destroyed Lemuria, a lot of us that had Lemurian lives, we felt the pain of that, that loss.
Right.
It was almost a bigger loss than what we felt in Lyra. It was such a, because it was Earth's opportunity to really get grounded into the fifth dimensional energies, and then it was taken away from us, and then Earth plunged into the third dimension. So I think after that you had some of your incarnations in Mesopotamia, okay, and you were dealing with these Annunaki that were trying to downgrade human genetics, and that's when you reached out to your, the Syrian friends that you had in Sirius A and B, to try to come and, help make things right. Yeah, I see kind of a lot of lifetimes on Earth, so it's kind of hard to even pinpoint, like, any particular lives. I know Egypt was big for you. I think you had several incarnations in Egypt, so I don't even see just one. I see early Egypt, and I see kind of middle Egypt when, that was probably the priestess life you had. And then I'm seeing another lifetime where I think you were, I think you were working with some sort of biological science, and this was like during the time of Alexandria, and your work was constantly shut down. It was like, I think you ended up getting killed in that life because the Christianity was taking over, and they weren't interested in advanced science. Okay, and that was around the time when I think Egypt was starting to, really downgrade. Okay, it was the Egyptian culture was coming to an end. Okay, it was. I think especially after the Greeks took it over, and then the Romans took over after that. But yeah, I see most of your, I think, incarnations have been in aristocratic families throughout Europe. Okay, I'm seeing Rome. I see different parts of Europe, France, and the UK. Okay, and I do see genetic lineage from Mary Magdalene. Okay, so that would be Jesus as well, I guess. You did incarnate during that time. Yeah, I do think you were one of the children of that pairing. And I think they had to take you out of Israel. I mean, I think you. So most likely it was Egypt for a while, and then I think you even had to leave Egypt. Okay, so it was, and like I said, I think most of your lifetimes. Okay, I kind of see where you've always went against the families that you were incarnated into. Okay.
I'm the black sheep of my family here too.
Yeah, you always, I'm seeing, whatever lifetime you had, whether it was in France or whether it was in Rome or if it was in, the Middle East, or Egypt, or even mostly in Europe, you didn't fall into the family. I think you had to incarnate into those families because of the genetics of those families, but you didn't follow the status quo of those families. Okay, so.
Rogue dragon here.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. So you were just like, you know what? I'm here to be a champion for humanity. I'm not going to fall in line with the Illuminati, agenda. That's not what I'm here to do. So you've always been a bit of a rebel, okay?
Yeah, I resonate with that.
And you're
interesting with my.
And I think you were born you're born in 76. I mean that's like second wave energy. Where you're coming in as
Fire dragon.
Yeah. You're coming in as a. Was that fire dragon in the Chinese?
Yep, Chinese zodiac fire dragon, and then with my not tropical, the Vedic astrology, I'm a Gemini sun, Scorpio rising, and Capricorn moon.
Oh, interesting. And you're a Cancerian, I guess, in the tropical, I guess.
And the interesting with this is where the twin flame thing came up with a friend of mine that does twin flame reading. Because the Vedic astrology with Ian, he's a Scorpio sun and a Virgo rising, Virgo moon.
Okay.
So we both have that Scorpio tag, and then the numerology in it has all of the mirrored twin flame numbers, which is really interesting. And it actually, the composite chart makes a geometric sign or geometric shape where a lot of them are just kind of a haphazard. Ours is actually geometric. It's very interesting. So
yeah, that's.
I'm wondering if because where we already work on the astral, because where I do light work. I have my own webcast. I've always been kind of in the spotlight the past 30 or so years doing some sort of production, whether it's music or theater or whatever. And then with sales and marketing as a promo model. But it's like things are coming to around more with taking that media thing and then mixing it with the energy works that I do. And so I'm wondering about, I know that he was curious as well on, what's the importance of us carrying a relationship, because it is long distance. I mean, it's 2,000 miles.
No, I know. I mean, because he's in Ontario, right? So.
Right, and then where I'm in Idaho.
Yeah, I mean that's quite. And I was going to ask you, I guess, if the relationship progresses forward, how are you guys going to get together? Is it going to be like you're going to have to go to him, or is he going to have to? Yeah.
Right now we don't know, just because we both have custody with kids. It's 4 to 5 more years, but you don't ever know what things are going to happen. We don't know where the world's going to go. I mean, we could travel, I guess, and right now we're very, very good friends. One of my best friends, in fact, and I think he's also mentioned that he feels the same. And we do have, all the things that line up for attraction and we would want to date.
Yeah.
It's just, I guess, figuring out, would this be, because like I found on the astral when he said he was my highest and best and he was going to find me, and then he did several months later. He hasn't quite bought into it, but he's open to it, and so that's where we were like, okay, should we continue to pursue this? Would this just be like he said on the astral, the highest and best for both of us with this path on carrying out our missions and helping humanity?
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I think you two have been on a joint mission for lifetimes, and sometimes together, sometimes apart. But it was ever since I think you two connected in Maldek, and you were on this mission to try to bring peace to Maldek, and that became a disaster. It was a big failure, but then he wanted you to help him on Orion. And I think it's because he felt like you had an insight that, kind of a reptilian insight that, maybe some of the other Orion people didn't have that genetic. Okay. So I think you understand the Illuminati really well. Not that I
do. It's weird, but I do.
Yeah, it's not like you necessarily subscribe to their agenda, but you understand it. I mean, you understand it
Right.
beyond even beyond someone like myself or Ian. That we don't have that genetic line,
And I
but
know I've got many allies that I've dreamt about, or I've had recalls with Zetas as well as the Mantis people, because I've had memories of being with some sort of a genetics program, and I don't know if that's with military abduction labs from this timeline or the secret space programs or what, but we were dressed like soldiers and would take care of these babies that were grown, lab grown, and basically breastfeed them, and the humans wouldn't let us, but then the Mantis people were very kind, and I call one of them the Green Lady, but she always let me cuddle the babies and love them, and it was a very vivid recall dream that I was having. So I don't know if that's part of the secret space program or like the planets that I've seen, the Saturn space station, some other colonies that I've dreamt about, and I've been with other pairings, and so it's kind of interesting trying to piece all of this together. I've talked with Tony Rodriguez, and he's suggested looking at a few things, and it seems like the more I delve into, the more that makes sense. And I feel very strongly that I'm a super soldier. And there's even some people that call me commander of Dragon class Solar Warden, like a ship. And I'm like, what? I don't know. Okay, sure. I don't have any paperwork to confirm that, but
yeah, and I'm not discounting what you're telling me because
right.
I think you have the right. They target, I think, people with certain genetics. Okay.
Right.
And it's usually either pure Lyran genetics or the Rh negative.
Right.
Annunaki genetic. Okay. Because these are the groups that usually have very heightened psychic abilities. Okay. And so I don't know, it's kind of hard because I look into records and I see kind of multiple timelines that I think you're operating in and out of, okay? And
which could be that time dilation of those 20s and back that, like Corey Good talks about or whatever, where we're time dilated and then we serve 20 years and then they take us back to the point of abduction and they've wiped our memories, and that's kind of what I feel, because I do remember a TR-3B when I was a Mormon missionary in California, and I've got recall of several underground bases. I've got people, I'll just call them Phoenix and Dragon, it's a twin flame duo that remember me from Montauk, and so I'm like, what?
So this has probably been ongoing since your beginning of your incarnation in this timeline. And so I think maybe I don't know if this is true or not, but what I'm picking up is your family in this life have some, like, what do they call it? Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm having a hard time remembering names and things. They have some sort of Illuminati connection.
Right.
And it's kind of like
that direct bloodlines, yeah.
Yeah, and so I kind of get that maybe you were volunteered for the the Montauk project, from an early age, okay. And so
but
I don't know.
It could have been coerced. My parents were military, so it could have been coerced under hypnosis with that MK Ultra.
Yeah, and maybe your parents didn't consciously, really, know what they were doing, but
right.
But
I don't think they would do it consciously either.
Yeah. So maybe they thought, they were sending you to camp, or maybe they thought they were sending you to maybe have some sort of little testing done by a military doctor, and it was actually something quite different. But
oh wow, that triggered me. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I have been to weird labs that they would take me to because my parents were told that I had learning problems, and later on I was diagnosed with, like they said, ADD and dyslexia, and then as an adult I was diagnosed with AS, They said it would be similar to like Asperger's, Tourette's, with a very high-functioning genius mind. Because I do have a little bit of a struggle with boundaries sometimes, but I learn and I change my behavior, and sometimes communication has been hard in the past, but it's getting easier as I get older.
No, I think you're doing good. You're doing good.
I adjust my behavior and move forward and learn. And Ian he was really sweet to talk to me, and that's one thing I really do look up to him. He's got a lot of wisdom, and he's been such a good friend. I just love him to death. Just absolutely amazing, beautiful soul.
Oh yeah, no, I love Ian too, and sometimes he and I have conversations on the phone just as friends. But yeah, so he's a very sweet guy. Yeah, he's
he is. He's an angel.
Yeah, he's just he's like the best of the best that came out of Orion. You know what I'm saying? It's like, he's just because a lot of people have this negative impression of Orion, and a lot of times I have to remind them, Orion wasn't all bad. There was a lot of really very light aspects about Orion. But
well, that would prove it. If somebody like Ian would come out of there, that there's got to be good there.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I believe that Donald Trump is also from Orion originally. So
cool.
Yeah, so that he's trying to do good on the planet, but yeah, so so those of us that are trying to make sure that the right timeline gets established on this planet.
Yes. Oh girl, I'm doing a lot of meditations for that, baby.
You and me both.
Honey, yes.
Yeah, we're all trying to make sure that the right timelines occur, but because it would be a disaster if it doesn't happen. Okay, so.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you, hon.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of looking. Yeah. So I'm kind of looking at your life now, and it's really hard to really give you a linear timeline, because I see you going back and forth in time, and it's like your life in this lifetime is very fragmented because of these programs that you were involved with, and I think maybe it was even difficult for you to even integrate, all these multidimensional aspects of yourself, after you were done with the secret space program, or, you were done with the hybridization program. And I think that's why sometimes you feel a little fragmented, because it's, I think you've done a really excellent job of bringing yourself together. I mean,
Thank you.
Yeah, I think you seem very intelligent, very lucid. You don't seem like, hey, I'm falling apart here. I think you've done,
Thank you.
You've done a very good job, I think, of integrating.
I'm always working on it.
Yeah, integrating different aspects of yourself. And I think moving forward, I think the job that you came here to do was to be a spiritual warrior, to fight for humanity. And so I think the idea you had about getting more involved with media is, I think in a way you're a whistleblower. You came here to,
right.
To expose the truth. And I do think you're going to continue to do the energetic work that you've been doing. I think that's always going to be, part of what you're. Because I think you feel this great responsibility towards the planet as well as towards the people of the planet.
Oh, yeah.
So this has been your mission for millennia. Ever since you left Sirius C, you felt this very, so more so than maybe other starseeds that came here from Pleiades or Arcturus or some other place. You feel this deep, deep connection with Earth, where you feel like...
yeah.
It's like your baby, and...
Oh, yeah. I connect with Earth a lot, and the sun even. I just love both of their beautiful spirits. Yeah,
and so I think, you've kind of feel this very deep, I think this deep appreciation and love and I think responsibility. The word responsibility comes up a lot, where... I think you just feel like, we need to get Earth on the right timeline. We need to get Earth back to the fifth dimension where it used to be before, the negative Orion factions, influenced Atlantis, and they just decided to attack Lemuria. So in a way, I think you are trying to bring back Mu. You're trying to bring back that Lemurian timeline, or template. Okay, so this is why I see Lemuria more so than Atlantis for you, even though it would seem like maybe you would be more connected with Atlantis, but I don't see that. I see Lemuria.
Yeah. I felt really connected to that too.
Yeah, I kind of see a lot of lifetimes on Earth where you did a lot of priestess work. So you were a priestess in the Mayan times. You were a priestess in Rome. You were, and I think you came from this really aristocratic family. They wanted you to marry some Roman asshole. Okay, that was. And so you said you said, hell no, I'm not marrying him. I'm becoming a priestess, and so you became a priestess of Diana. Okay. Wow. And you picked Diana particularly because she was so independent. She didn't need to be connected with a god or a man. She was, very independent. And she was the goddess of the hunt, the goddess of women, the goddess of the moon. So you connected with this goddess quite a bit. And in a way, she was kind of.
That's like Wonder Woman, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it is.
That's what I felt really connected to, because on the astral, sometimes I have not just a sword, but I have this crystal indigo lasso type thing that I've tied to bouncing. That's very interesting. There's other people that believe that they're SFP that have also told me that I have that energy, which is fascinating.
Oh yeah, no, wow. I think this came from Rome. I think in your Mesopotamian life you were very connected with Ishtar. Okay, that was the mother goddess of, who I think is. I think Diana is a representation of the ancient Ishtar. Okay, so wow. So there was this divine feminine connection with these big feminine archetypes that you've, Mary Magdalene is also a representation of that energy. Okay, so,
right. And I'm actually cousins, I don't know at what level, but Laura Eisenhower is one of my cousins through the royal bloodline.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I do see, most of your incarnations was in more aristocratic royal families, throughout Europe. Okay, but you were always rebelling against the family. It was always like,
I gotta stay true to my lineage, girlfriend.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. No, I mean, I think, and I think it was almost like you chose that on purpose because you wanted to take them down from the inside, not from the outside. Okay, so.
What am I doing?
Yeah, so I think it was almost like, I can't go direct, hand-to-hand combat, with these groups, but I can certainly undermine them from the inside out. Okay.
Right.
Let me see. We're kind of running out of time. I think we have about 5 minutes left. Was there any questions or anything that I could answer for you that, as we're kind of reaching the end of our reading here, that I can help you with?
I guess just since we were kind of focusing on, mission life and everything, what do you see, like with Ian and me in the future? Should we pursue this partnership into a relationship, or should we just remain friends and stay separated? And
I think that would have to be both of your choice. I think.
Right.
And I hate to be so vague about it. It's just that
right.
You two are free will beings, and I think it would have to be his choice and your choice. Okay.
Absolutely.
So you would have to honor, I guess, his free will and your free will. I think you would make a dynamic duo if you guys got together. Okay. I think it would be like a disclosure power couple. But
I really feel that way too. Like we would be literally, like you said, on the astral, the highest and best.
Yeah.
I just don't feel any desire. Otherwise, I feel like if I don't, I would just probably do this solo. I don't feel connected to any other guy like that. That it's just, and I've got several guys actively pursuing me, but I just am not interested in that.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. I think if if you're going to do the work and you're going to be in partnership with somebody, it would have to be somebody that you're definitely in alignment with, that is at your frequency level.
Which would definitely be him, but he has to make that decision, which I totally understand.
Yeah, and I think it just has to be like his decision. I know he's been burned in the past by women, and
yeah, he has, which is very upsetting. I think that's horrible that somebody of his spirituality would be treated that way.
Yeah, and so I see the reluctance in him only because I don't think he wants to align with somebody unless he's really sure that this is going to be the highest and the best alignment. Okay.
And I think that's what he wanted to know as well.
Yeah.
That's why he was willing to have you use his first name.
No, yeah.
On here.
Continue the friendship. See where it takes you. And I've seen long distance relationships work. I do see them working. I mean, because you can always, like I said, I don't know how it would work between you and him, except one of you, I guess, would have to make the sacrifice and move. But
and I'm willing to go to there if I have to. I mean, I still have kids here until for another 5 years at school, and the same thing with his son. But I've thought about it, moving out there. I'm totally open to that, and he's even talked with me about coming down here to southern Utah or something, which really resonates with me. I love those areas, and so, but right now it's just a timing thing. Unless his the mother of his child would say, no, never mind, it's okay, you can move, or something happened to my son's dad, then that would be the only other thing that would change that.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I would say it would be, I guess. So hopefully, I mean, for your sake, I would say, I hope it develops into something else, but like I said, it has to be his free will, and you do, you do want to have, that the honoring of the free will.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and I do highly respect and honor him.
Oh yeah, no, I see that. I mean, I have no doubt that you do. Unfortunately, we are at the end of our time, and I have another reading in 15 minutes, so I do have to wrap things up. Oh, thank you. It was a real pleasure getting to know you, and and I do, I think you're on a very, very big mission. I do hope that you go take this to media, that you become, you become, the whistleblower, or the the spiritual warrior that you truly are, that you take it to the next level.
I would love to interview you for my show. I think it would be cool. I didn't even know about your work until Ian, and so I think it would be awesome to put you on my radio show and just let you talk about what you do.
So I'd love to. Yeah, just reach out to me and we'll set a date. Okay, so
perfect. That'd be awesome. Thank you so much, Debbie. It's a pleasure. You're a beautiful person, and it's an honor.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm going to do a little closing prayer, and then we'll wrap things up here. I would like to thank the Masters, teachers, and loved ones for their love and compassion. I would like to thank the Lords of the Akashic Records for their point of view, and I would like to thank the Holy Spirit of Light for all knowledge and healing. The records are now closed, amen. The records are now closed, amen. The records are now closed, amen. Your energy goes with you, and my energy stays with me.